I'm a big encourager of people to get out there and see the world. I think it makes a huge impact on you personally and your outlook on where you live and your relationship with people. I've had the good fortune for the last 20 years to be affiliated with the National Geographic Society. And for the last 10 years, we've been focused on the health of the world's oceans and the lives of people who depend on them. So we've been traveling around the world one continent at a time by sea kayak. I've been writing all my life, but my real interest was not staying home. Like many writers, I have an insatiable curiosity, and I've always been enthralled by the world's seas. I just felt like the ocean was kind of an underreported part of the planet. We did 8 big trips. The Aleutian Islands in the United States, French Polynesia, the Altiplano of South America, Croatia, Gabon in West Africa, Vietnam, Tasmania, and Antarctica. And what we've come to learn is that if you live and depend on the sea, whether you wake up on the coast of Vietnam or the coast of Chile, you have a lot more in common than you have differences. We've most recently come back from Antarctica, and we keep going back because, to me, the peninsula of Antarctica is changing faster than anywhere else on the planet. It's still covered with ice, but the temperature along the peninsula has risen by 5 to 10 degrees over the last 50 years, the most dramatic temperature change anywhere on the planet. So it's really interesting time to be going back there as a storyteller, to bring back these anecdotes every year of how it's changing. This year, for example, we were in the Grand Didier Channel and we saw this beautiful ice arch floating on the sea. So we paddled over to it, and within minutes after we arrived, it just started dropping off huge chunks, and when they hit the sea, it was like cement falling on the water. So we kind of hung around just for about 45 minutes and the thing collapsed right in front of us, which is very, very rare. Amongst us, I think we had 100 plus years of Antarctic experience. No one had ever witnessed an ice arch collapse. The result of all this warming is you're seeing a great impact on the wildlife, because penguin chicks are born in November and they leave the nest in February. And during that summer period, they're covered in down. And we all know what happens to down when it gets wet. And increasingly along the Antarctic Peninsula, it's raining. As penguin chicks are getting soaked, down doesn't dry out, temperature drops at night into the teens, they freeze, and many of them die. So this is a real impact of climate change that is much more immediate than talking about melting ice. Half the world's population lives within 100 kilometers or 60 miles of a coastline. What's happening to the world's ocean impacts more than 3 billion people. Increasingly, people around the world are impacted by a trio of environmental problems which we see everywhere. Climate change, which means both rising seas, but also more and more storms, more frequent storms, more violent storms. Plastic pollution, we see everywhere. And then overfishing, which is something we take for granted. We're all eating a lot more fish, but we never think about the fact that our consumption is actually depleting the ocean. Pay attention to what fish you eat. Some of the species that we get in restaurants and at the supermarket are already endangered. In regard to plastic pollution, it's really simple. If the world used less plastic, less of it would end up in the sea. And in regard to climate change, that's the simple use less energy. It's all related. There's a couple hundred countries around the world. I figure I've been to 80 of them and have reported and written and made films from a lot of those different places. Everything seems to make a lot more sense if you get out there and look around the world. After you travel and you come home and you read the newspaper, you look at the internet, and you read about a place that you've been to, you can't help but understand that place better if you've been there.